How's it going, everybody? Haley Hodges, your Utah Realtor here with Utah Homes Network. Hey, let's talk today about the final walkthrough process and the things that you should be checking during your final walkthrough, and really, what's the point of a final walkthrough? So in a sense, the final walkthrough is exactly how it sounds. It's one last walkthrough of the property prior to you going and signing all the paperwork in order to purchase this dream home that you made an offer on. Now, depending on the state you live in, you have different parameters on when a final walkthrough can actually be conducted. Now, since I'm licensed in the state of Utah, I am going to go off Utah law. So in Utah, you can do your final walkthrough no sooner than 7 days prior to settlement. So a week before, you can go in and walk through the property. Some people go and walk through the property the day they're going to sign the papers and purchase the new home. I strongly encourage you not to do this, because if there's any major issues or defects in the property that need to be addressed, you don't have enough time to do this and still close in your designated window that you wanted to. So I always recommend maybe going 5 to 6 days before settlement, walking through the property, making sure there's no new holes in the wall, or if anything that you had maybe negotiated with the seller on repairing on your behalf has actually been done to the full extent that you agreed upon. So that's kind of the main point of doing a final walkthrough, is if anything had been negotiated and agreed to being repaired, that you're going to check on it. But there's a few other things that I always encourage my clients to do when they're doing this final walkthrough. So one of them is go through and flush all of the toilets and turn on all the faucets and make sure that the water's in working order. There's no random leaking that may have started. Anything that could be cause for concern when it comes to plumbing, you just want to check and make sure there's no leaking in the property. It's also a good rule of thumb to go check the water heater, make sure that that hasn't busted and there's no leaking. Little things like that. Now, if you are, let's say, are buying new furniture, bring a measuring tape with you and measure the rooms prior to ordering any of this furniture so that you can make sure it's actually going to fit. And don't just measure the room, but measure the doorways. Now, a lot of people think, well, if it doesn't fit through the front door, then I'll just bring it through the back slider. Well, that's great. But what if it's going into the basement and your basement doesn't have a walkout and you're trying to get it down narrow stairs into a basement home? You want to make sure you're measuring that width as well to make sure that any furniture you're purchasing would actually fit through the property. So these are just little things that you're going to want to check during your final walkthrough. So have a measuring tape, confirm anything that's been repaired or that you agreed upon for repairs actually has been done to the fullest extent. And if it hasn't, then you're needing your agent to remediate that with the sellers immediately to make sure that this is done before settlement. Now, a couple of questions you're going to want to ask your sellers during the final walkthrough, and make sure you have these answers before settlement, because more often than not, once the sellers have sold the home, they're less inclined to answer questions for you. So a couple of things you're going to want to know. When is trash picked up in the neighborhood? Is it on a Tuesday? Is it Thursdays? Is recycling every week, or is it every other week? If you're in an HOA community and your mailboxes are all in one of those kind of big box units, ask what number your mailbox number is, because more often than not, it doesn't match the address of your home. So you're going to want to find out what that is as well. So just a couple of things there that a lot of people often forget. And then next thing you know, you're under contract, you buy the home, and you have no idea when the trash is supposed to go out or what those guidelines are. So just a good rule of thumb to check those with the sellers as well. If there's a security system in the home, one, you're going to want to ask the seller to take their name off of it, but two, ask them for the sign-in information so you can create your own account. If there's garage door openers, chances are in this day and age, there's also going to be a garage code keypad, and more often than not, you can look online to figure out how to reroute that and wipe the old passwords and put in your new. But it's still a good rule of thumb. Just ask the seller what the password was so you can make sure once you clear it that that password doesn't work anymore. So that is what I recommend checking during the final walkthrough. If you have any questions on this, you can always reach me on Instagram at Haley Sells Utah. I have a TikTok as well. Or you can text me directly at 801-917-6765. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to share a comment below. Or if you have additional questions, write a comment below and I'm happy to answer.